not so much I'm not so much worried about why this chip does this or why this capacitor sounds like that. I'm more interested. Although those things do interest me, I'm more of a high level, broad overview kind of person. Although, well, I guess
Well, you're an
on
integrator.
on some
Yeah,
things,
yeah. I mean, you're an integrator, though. I mean, you really care about how something's going to end up. Like you said, you care about the output, you care about how the result, and that's just as important. At the end of the day, everyone does care about results.
Yeah, but I work backwards, right? So I do my thing, and then I get the end result. I'm at the final stage, and then I work backwards, right? So if the end result isn't what I want, then I work backwards. Why isn't it? And then I start at the very first step backwards.
Yep.
Filters, crossover, filters, or time alignment, or install, whatever. And then if that's not it, then I work backwards, back. And then I don't ever get to the molecular level. I don't ever need to.
Well, I mean, there's two different approaches there. That approach takes the most amount of time, but you also tend to learn a lot along the way. Otherwise, if you understand how and why everything works, then you can implement it correctly the first time. And there's no mysteries there. It's not, I'm going to connect it, I'm going to see what happens. Now, something's going to happen, and there's a lot to be learned from that. And there's times it's just more fun to just see what's going to happen and learn from that experience.
I just T-fade it because I don't worry about all that shit. I duct tape and zip tie it together until it makes noise, and then I go, something's not right. Let me figure that out.
Needs a knob turn right. There it is.
Right, because I have lots of knobs.
Yeah,
I got a lot of knobs.
Why is the tweak what you call it for stock? Why is that allowed and not anything else?
Well, because I run stock class, so stock class in Mecca.
Yeah, but I thought you couldn't have any other processing but the radio.
Right. Well, that was last year. So last year you were only allowed to have the stock head unit. Well, you're limited to 16 bands of EQ, and you couldn't change the head unit. But this year, they're allowing a processor as long as you keep the stock head unit, but you can still only have 16 bands of EQ. So there's only 3, 4, 5 processors that meet that requirement. JL Tweak is one. The Dayton 408 is one. The Mini DSP, if you have the parametric option, and like the Zapco. Those are really the only noteworthy ones. So I got the JL because everyone said, "Oh, the JL is awesome." Blah blah blah. I hate it.
Ouch. Manville will not be excited about that comment.
Well, I actually, it's funny. I was troubleshooting it today, not from molecular. I should have maybe gone back to the molecular level, but I actually messaged Manville just to bitch to him. I was like, "This thing sucks. I'm about to throw it in the woods."
Well, I mean, most of my experience is obviously with the VXI, which is a different version of Tweak.
Well, I should have gotten those. I should have gotten the amps. I should have gotten the VVXI amps instead of the processor, because I still had to decide what amps I was running. But I figured I'll save time since I already own a lot of good amps.
Yeah.
But
it's handy. I mean, especially if you think of something in stock class where you're going to take a factory head unit, you want one box that you're going to tie everything to and call it a day. That's one box you can tie it to and call it a day.
You see who just jumped in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried to. I sort of made my install sort like removable, because it's in my EV, so I can all the amps and shit and the processor are on the box, where I could just take everything in and out, like everything is on Anderson connectors or male female type thing, so I can just, and then I could just hook it back up to the factory amp and still have the factory stuff. Take everything out.
Nobody cares about that. Everyday Audios number 31 in the building. We slow,
Is it
man.
31?
Yeah, maybe. I don't never know. It's in the 30s.
I think it's more than that.
It probably is. I don't upload hardly any of them, so I'm just guessing. And this weekend we got Aggieland and we got Triple Fest.
Yeah,
that's some huge shows,
big deal.
man.
Yeah.
Like both of
And
them.
IFO.
And
IFO locally.
Yeah,
right?
yes. Sunday is IFO, and yeah, I'm Skippo1. What's going on? How y'all doing?
I'm T-Fade.
How you
What's
ladies
going
been?
on?
How you ladies been?
And this guy over here. Wait, which way am I?
Nope.
Wait,
You almost had it. There it is.
This way?
Yeah, that way.
Yeah.
Right there.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Rich Vedvik. On forums, I've gone by Keep Hope Alive since the mid-2000s. Electrical engineer and acoustical engineer, someone that's been installing mobile audio for 25 plus years in boats, motorhomes, cars, vehicles, do pro sound tuning, run sound for live events, and consult on that. I design buildings for a living. I design acoustical projects. I test acoustical systems for transmission loss, sound absorption, from locomotives to buildings to hospitals. I stay pretty busy. I build the cars, work on stuff, keep myself.
Y'all out here putting dynamite in locomotives? That's wild.
Yes, that's exactly
so
right.
Well,
he goes to
I can talk about locomotives.
He's in a coal room with a roller. Just
yes, 100%. But on a locomotive, you have to put pitch. You gotta put vibraflex.
So comically, they were actually very interested about adding weight, despite how heavy that thing is. They're concerned about ride quality. Absolutely. So this was actually being tested for the Australian government. They have a noise ordinance on their site that's pretty strict. So you got to take about 23 measurements around the locomotive and help them achieve compliance. Basically, it's about 75 decibels A-weighted at 23 meters. It's quiet. They're sneaky, very sneaky locomotives.
That's not actually. It's funny you say that because Tony D was talking shit about electric cars again today, and he said one of his points that he was making is they're a danger to pedestrians. And you want to talk about a danger? If you're sneaking up on somebody in a locomotive, that's like a danger to pedestrians.
Sneaking up.
Yeah, they're actually quieter in the front because you know that locomotives are generators that produce electricity that then drive electric motors at each one of the wheels, and then they have a large resistive load bank with fans on it where they dump that extra electricity for braking.
What?
Absolutely.
Don't they just burn coal? Is that not?
It's like a Tesla. It's like a series hybrid.
What are you talking? I thought they run on steam.
They don't burn coal anymore.
No, they have a diesel generator, or in this case, we were testing the concept of using multiple small engines and then predicting noise, and then also going into the field and measuring it. So it's just like a Tesla. You got individual motors at each wheel. You got traction control. They're slick.
They're electric.
Well, they generate electricity, but all the motors are electric. The motor isn't actually connected to any of the drivetrain.
Oh, here we go.
Like I said, it's like a Tesla.
This would be super interesting for Sheldon Cooper. Jeffrey Hald, what's up? Welcome to the chat. Do you have any acoustic questions for Mr. Vedvik?
Have you not made one of those rooms where you can hear your blood flowing?
Oh, yes.
So,
and is that a thing?
Anechoic chambers are something that we've been trying to do a little bit more of, but honestly, someone has to want to spend the money. To actually build a room that's that isolated is extremely expensive. You got to do it.
Me and Faye got money.
Yeah, we got money. What's
We
happening?
Like, how small of a room we talking? Can we do it in my bathroom? Let me just do it in my bathroom.
GoFundMe / hear your blood flowing.
Faye got egg crates.
Yeah, I do.
Foam egg crates.
Dude, I got egg crate for
We
days.
got this.
I'll say this. If you want to start, you're going to build a room. That's most mass you possibly can. And then you're going to leave an air gap. You're going to build another room outside of that because you have to mitigate the structural connection between your various surfaces. Remember that transmission loss through a wall, mitigating sound passing through any rigid material. Sound moves faster through hard things and slower through air, essentially. Sound just, molecules bouncing around. That's right.
I was explaining this to Skip earlier in the week.
Yep. So you have to structurally isolate items. That's why people say put mass-loaded vinyl in your floor and you have to decouple it with a foam, right? Put some decoupling on there because sound transfers through rigid connections very efficiently.
Fade wanted me to make a lasagna out of like CCF, MLV, and just keep going. Just keep going until I couldn't stack my carpet on top.
That's exactly right.
He's like, I'm like, look, so I gotta put. Yeah, I'm like, look, so I gotta put the foam, and then I gotta put the mask on. Yeah, but before you do that, you gotta put another layer.
I'm just saying, don't even bother if you don't do it like this way.
Like, my knees are gonna be in my chest by the time I'm done doing sound stuff.
You won't be able to get seats back in the thing. Your head will be on the.
I got it.
I got that.
Oh, that's always a challenge, man. Anytime you put that stuff in there.
Yeah,
you just gotta be. I would say if you had to take away what's a lesson in how do you mitigate sound or how do you manage sound, it's like avoid consistent dimensions, avoid symmetry as much as possible, because symmetry is essentially going to support singular frequencies based on the mathematical relationship of wavelength. So you would almost want. That's why you'd see canted walls in a lot of recording studios. If you have parallel surfaces, parallel walls, you're going to produce standing waves, and that's going to singularly support individual frequencies.
Something on that, along the same line there, a lot of times people don't think about when they do bracing for like large panels, they put it right in the middle. And it's actually way better if you put it off to the side a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a mathematical relationship associated with the bracing. You're just changing the mode. If you have something that's this wide, it's going to support wavelengths that fit within that space. If you put a spot in the middle, now these gaps are equidistant. Right. You like that? This is actually how when I met T-Fay. This is the first thing I did to him. Whereas if you offset it, now this dimension's different than this dimension, and you can spread out the modes that you're going to support, you could say.
See? All y'all doing it wrong. All you SPL people out there, take note.
Symmetry's bad. That's all you got to know.
Symmetry is bad. The golden ratio is good.
Yeah, absolutely. We like golden ratios.
It's a fascinating. That's what I was trying to ask Phil. Like, how much of this? I guess you could call it SQ. I mean, it's all same stuff, but how much can the SQ part can you bring over to SPL and do, the same tricks and make it, louder? Because is that what you're essentially doing for SQ, making it less noisy or loud? You know what I mean? Like,
it's what we're trying to do.
Principles. Right.
It's the same principles, but they are different goals. So it's kind of the same way that noise and speech are related to each other. In sound quality, you only want to hear what comes off of the front of the cone, and you really only want to hear it once. You want the right speaker to come into the right ear only, and the left speaker to come into the left ear only. Anything else is unwanted noise, and it's a challenge that you have to fix. So resonance and standing waves, those are a problem in acoustics because they're going to support some frequencies more than other. The constructive interference and the destructive interference, addition and cancellation. In SQ, though, you actually want to take advantage of constructive interference. If you put your box, for example, a half wavelength away from a reflecting plane at the back of the vehicle, by the time that wave comes back, it's made a full cycle, it's now in phase. If you put it at a quarter, then when it bounces, it comes back. Now it's at a half, it's out of phase. So we care about that. It's actually kind of the reason why a lot of subwoofers seem really weak when you face them forward, and they're a little bit louder when you face them back. Simply do the math on that, and you'll see the frequencies that are perfectly canceled are in that like 70 to 80, hertz range when you face a box forward. And then when you face it backwards, you're just reducing that point. So then that way, a shorter distance means a higher wavelength, right? So now your cancellation occurs outside of the range you're playing your sub. You can just do the math on wavelength, and you can figure out a lot of the problems or a lot of the maybe advantages you can take advantage of.
Actually, I have a video. I was telling Skip the other day, I have a video coming up on how to find resonance in a vehicle, because a lot of people wonder that, and a lot of people get it wrong. Because they just think, just throw any old steel box in your car and you measure it, but you have to measure it anechoically. I hate that word. Outside the car too.
Well, yeah, you have to characterize the response of the box before you characterize the response of the box in the vehicle. And placement really matters. I mean, just the same thing as where you put subs in a room. Where you put the subwoofer is going to determine which modes you excite. And the dimensions of the room determine which modes are going to exist in the first place.
I haven't HT'd yet because I really don't even want to get caught up in that yet. But I heard that if you put your sub in the listening position and then wander around the room and find where the bass is the loudest or whatever, that's where you should put your sub. Is that feasible?
You're gonna gain in corners just because you get constructive interference. So wherever you put a sub in the room, you stand in a corner, it's typically going to be a little bit louder. And again, that comes down to the reflections that you hear. Always keep in mind that something that produces sound, it leaves that thing and it comes straight to your ears, and then it hits every single other surface in the room and it comes back to your ears. And all those time differences are what's going to cause cancellation. Cancellation is when it gets quieter in some areas and it's louder in others. So I was at an Acoustical Society of America conference that I was presenting in 2012, I think it was. And there was a presentation there that was actually, a scientific approach to how many subwoofers you put in a room to get a really balanced response. 1, 2, or 3, and then, do you follow a golden ratio when you come off of walls? And at the end of the day, yeah, absolutely. The more you can put in the room at varying dimensions and differences from reflecting planes, the better off you are.
Like T-Fade trying to put in a kick inside his house.
No, yeah, more is better.
Kick scores matter.
That's all I heard.
I'm thinking an 18 is going to go in my basement underneath the floor, and then I'll just do like a massive ported box. I'd like to do like a full wave transmission line and just build that in the basement and then have that come through like a floor vent.
What's that going to be, like 90 feet long?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, like 100. Yeah. I think 30.
Maybe.
No, 30 hertz is already at 90 feet. So yeah, if you want infrasonic shit, you're talking about 100.
Well, heck, man, I mean, you got a whole basement to play with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with it. We don't have basements here. We bury our dead above ground. Yeah, we don't.
They float away. They float away if you don't.
That's a good point.
It's not a joke. Sad.
Now up here in northern Illinois, we got basements.
We got attics. We could do attic. We could downfire.
Can we do an attic?
We could downfire.
Yeah.
This room here is actually so perfect because I'm totally doing a giant IB manifold up here this is like my AV room. I mean, I'm in the closet now, obviously, but it's not really a closet.
Come out of the closet, let me know.
Right. Well, I'm not ready to come out of the closet.
2021's his year.
I mean, IB happens in a lot of houses. It's actually a pretty easy place to truly do that because you can put it in an attic or you can feed it to a basement. And, we call IB in a car more of a trunk baffle. Our airspace is much, much greater than the air spring compliance of the woofer, such that there's the enclosure that is whatever is left in the vehicle isn't having an effect on that cone moving around.
Right, we say four times VAS, right? There was not gonna.
We say something like
completely negatively affect it. Q, that is.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have reflections. Remember, I mean that's why it sounds different with the trunk open versus closed.
And if it's sufficiently big, then you shouldn't. But that was one of the fun things about Hank's CRX when he did the 21s, quote unquote IB. Or 24s, I'm sorry, 24s in his CRX. It was fun because he hadn't really tested it, and when he got to finals, we were just playing with the hatch open, hatch closed, door open, door closed, and it was actually it was crazy because I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was different. It was backwards from what you would think. I think it was like louder hatch closed, but with both doors open versus hatch open, even though it was like such a ridiculously small space,
So how much are you guys doing like bandpass enclosure calculations? Because if you put a ported box in a cabin, aren't you creating a sixth order? And you're basically measuring inside the box, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Did anybody do that math?
No one does. No one uses Boyle's Law. Get out of here, Rich.
I don't know what that is.
I mean, I do. I don't know about these other clowns, but no one has even heard of Boyle.
We just throw power at it till it stops getting loud.
That's actually like that. If you go to I just want to bang, that's what they'll tell you. Add cone area or power,
bro. What do you half ohm?
You run out of money.
Half ohm, bro.
Yeah, that's pretty much
right.
What can you
drop your ohm load, add cone area, add power until you run out of money,
or
you get embarrassed and laughed off the group.
Yeah. It's sad, but no. Nobody knows math. I don't know.
No one
math,
wants to science.
Everybody.
You want to talk about car doors?
Yeah. I watched your video too about the. What were you doing? You putting like stuff in a plastic bag?
Yes.
Yeah, but
actually, you know what's funny? We were, because you and I have been talking about MLV, Skip.
Yeah.
So there was like a conversation about road noise, which is what MLV is for, and I like as soon as it came up, someone was talking shit about those deadeners that have the CCF like on top of them.
Yeah.
They were talking all that smack about how it mitigates road noise. And I was like, that is retarded. That's ridiculous. That's not how it works, blah, blah, blah. So I like shot Rich a text. I was like, dude, people are talking shit. I need some like measurements. I need this shit right now. And he has like on lock measurements of CCF and how effective they are against
man.
road noise and shit. I was like, suck it, right there. It's engineering, science, bitch.
Burned.
Right.
Well, one of the things we do is, I have, when I'm an acoustical engineer for a project, obviously I'm looking at two different things. I'm looking at sound absorption and I'm looking at transmission loss. So transmission loss is the ability for something to block sound from transferring from one space to the next, such as the outside of a vehicle to the inside of the vehicle. And then sound absorption is the ability to basically, take advantage of the conservation of energy and say that I'm going to have all of these air molecules that are vibrating around introduce something lossy. They're going to do a little bit of work in the process. That work is going to be given off as a little bit of heat. That's kind of what we talk about, why deadener gives off heat. Well, sound absorption is kind of in that same realm. But people typically misunderstand that sound absorption and sound transmission are completely different processes. So if you can think of, if you want something to be sound tight, you can make it watertight. That's kind of what you're trying to do here. Remember, you're trying to mitigate air molecules from vibrating against each other and moving from one space to the next. Now, because sound moves very efficiently through rigid materials, we're also concerned about sound that's outside, making the whole panel of the door vibrate. That's going to transmit through the air of the door. Then it's going to hit the other side of the door. It's going to transmit into the vehicle. In addition, we have flanking paths, which is every other path that you're not interested in at that moment. So MLV, people ask me all the time, like what kind of MLV should I use? So 0.5 pound per square foot, 1 pound per square foot, 2 pound per square foot. And the answer is that you could probably get away with a 0.5 pound. And even though we'd like the idea of transmission loss of a full pound per square foot, you're not actually going to realize that transmission loss because of the door seals and the glass and the roof and the floor and the wheel wells and the vent system and every other path that sound has to get in besides that door. So we're really looking to minimize the major areas and just constantly keep working our way down. Door seals are a huge problem. 2 layers of door seals is great. If you don't have that in your car now, adding that's going to make a huge difference right out of the gate. From there, doors are a huge weak point because that plastic door panel is essentially the inside of the vehicle. Those giant holes in that plastic bag, that's not blocking sound. That's why putting sound absorption in a plastic bag works, because the transmission loss of the bag is small. It's just the same thing as putting it in a pool. When I do acoustical designs for outdoor applications or pools, that's exactly what we're doing. I didn't invent that idea. I just said, hey, I do it in a pool. I'm going to do it in a door. That's really all I did.
A pool, like a swimming pool? What are you talking about?
Absolutely, yeah. We try and control the acoustics of swimming pools. When we do natatoriums is actually the technical term.
What?
Not in the pool, man, like in the room.
I don't like the sound of water. Fix it.
Yeah, what the crap, dude? When I'm swimming, when I go underwater, I can hear
it's too loud. The liquid is too loud.
I don't understand.
Yep. No, you've been in a pool before and it's really echoey and it's really loud. And
sure.
Like 10 kids are in there and it sounds like there's 100. We try and minimize that in commercial applications, commercial acoustics. So we do that by just putting sound absorption in a bag. Creative Materials for Acoustics or CMA, they sell that stuff readily. When you walk into schools or libraries or any place with open structure, you'll see bags or banners of stuff. It's just fiberglass in a bag. That's all it is. It's really simple.
So you've pioneered, as far as I know, fiberglass in a bag indoors.
Indoors, yeah, I would say so.
So is there anything that approximates the efficacy of your method?
If there was, I'd be doing it.
You're talking about just straight fiberglass, like regular Home Depot fiberglass in a plastic bag and calling it a day?
So it's amazing, isn't it? But see, here's what everyone has to take into consideration. It's stupid simple. We put sound absorption in every possible speaker enclosure imaginable. What we're trying to do with an enclosure is mitigate the rear wave sound from ever making it back to the cone. And everyone's heard this. Like you get in your system and you listen to something that sounds really simple, right? Like just like a real simple beat, like a snare and a kick and a hi-hat, maybe some basic vocals. And you're like, man, this sounds really good. And then the song gets more complex and more instruments come in. And it sounds like it's degrading. A lot of people attribute that to distortion and amplifiers and speakers and stuff like that. What you're hearing is reverberation inside that door. The rear wave is bouncing around and it's reverberating and it's bouncing around. And the main place that has to come out is back through the cone. The speaker cone isn't a very good, it doesn't have a lot of transmission loss. Sound can pass right through that, no problem. So what's happening is you're generating all of this echo inside that hollow metal door. Deadener's not helping you because we put, aluminum scrim on that. So it's not helping reduce the reverberation inside the door. The only way to solve that problem is with sound absorption. And people have been trying this over the years, but because the door is a wet environment, they've been failing. They're using closed cell foam that's 1/8 inch thick. Well, we can find they're called absorption coefficients, sound absorption coefficients. You look that up for any material you're interested in, and you're going to see a number from 0 to 1 in each octave band. And you're going to then say, all right, the performance of this is very bad in low frequencies and mid-range, but it works at high frequencies. Or this is really good at lows and it works, very poorly in highs. My fiberglass in a bag idea works off that exact same concept. So when you look at sound absorption coefficients of sound absorptive materials, whether it's mineral fiber or foam or fiberglass, and you put any sort of a membrane in front of it, what happens is you lose a little high frequency absorption, but you gain mid-range and mid-bass absorption. And that comes back to the concept that sound is doing work. It's actually moving that bag a little bit on a molecular level, right? Like it's moving it a little bit. Well, that's energy transfer. So when we look at mid-bass and bass absorbers, they're basically what's called a membrane absorber, where they put a thin membrane with some sound absorption behind it, maybe in a corner, so the dimensions vary, you get a little more depth. And you can absorb bass and mid-bass that way. I don't know why. And this is also being seen in new cars. When you take a new car apart, what do you see? You see these little bags of waterproof sound absorption. They're putting it behind all the interior panels. They're a couple of years or decades late to the party, but at least they're starting to understand if you want to mitigate noise and resonance, you have to introduce some sound absorption. Putting fiberglass in a bag does just that. Now, I started with the Home Depot stuff, but
when you
now
say
I use
HF, I don't mean to cut you off, but when you say high frequency, do you mean like how high are we talking? Like the 1 mil?
So that actually is going to depend on the thickness of the membrane. So you can go 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, 4 mil, 5 mil. The thicker the membrane, the lower in cutoff frequency, where you start losing performance. Now, we don't really care about anything above 2,000 hertz in a door.
Right.
We're just running. We're running at 6.5 or something. Yeah. So we really just care about the low stuff. The fastest way to take a look and see an example of that too is you can go and like home insulation with a paper facing. You can find sound absorption coefficients with the paper face on the wall or the paper face in the room. And what you see is you lose high frequency, but you gain mid-bass. So it's slick, man. There's no reason not to do it. The challenge, of course, that you run into, and actually I figured out why you kept getting water.
I hate it.
I know why. Let me explain this. So this actually comes back to the concept of mechanical engineering and vapor. So if you seal air in a bag, what you've done is you've actually trapped a certain amount of water vapor, which means you've trapped a certain amount of water. And as the temperature varies on the outside, it's going to change the dew point of the material, and there's a fixed dew point within that bag. So at some point, when you seal a bag up, you trap water. And if it gets colder than when it was when you put the air in, it's going to condense. So that's why you're going to get water. So what I've done to combat that, because I live in Northern Illinois, man, it varies from 105 to, it was 50 below with the wind chill just this past winter. So when you see these temperature extremes, you have to allow for air transfer. So I think the bottom of these bags need to actually be gapped and left open. So that way you have a little bit of vapor transfer, but water's not going to wick its way back up. It's just going to kind of fall down the top.
All right.
So well, we need the top of the bags open.
We need an update to your video. So let me paraphrase everything Rich was just saying there for people who have no effing idea what he's talking about. So when you put, if you've seen, which you should have seen by now, my door prep videos on the Everyday Audio's YouTube channel. So I talk about rear wave absorption when you put a woofer in a door, right? So you don't want the shit bouncing back into the woofer. So you have to absorb it. Otherwise, it's going to bounce around and come out the woofer and sound like shit. So Rich's idea, which is a fantastic idea, is to put regular old insulation like Pink Panther shit into 1 mil drop cloth and make a bag out of it, because you have to make a bag. Otherwise, it's just going to get wet and you're going to get black mold and you will die. So,
it's deadly.
That's what we're talking about. Anything that goes in the door has got to be hydrophobic, waterproof, not absorb moisture, whatever.
Like a magic eraser, right?
Now, yes. Is there any?
But those they're not hydrophobic though. I ordered a bunch of them. It's just melamine foam. It's not hydrophobic melamine foam. So now I just have 1,000 magic erasers that absorb water.
You spray them with some Never Wet.
Dude,
and then,
I ordered like a
won't
legit
work.
case about this big of melamine foam, thinking I'm a genius. I'm just gonna stick these everywhere, but they're not hydrophobic.
Is there a company product that makes this already ready to go, or it's just straight DIY stuff?
DIY.
No.
And here's why.
Now, can you use those? Can you use those things Fade's talking about, because they're square and it'd be better to put in a bag or something, but versus
that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna vary your performance based on two things, well, three things actually: the fibrous nature of the material, the thickness of the material, and the density of the material. So, is it fibrous? What's the density and what's the thickness? And again, you come back to absorption coefficients. I have binders and books and thousands of PDFs of just all of the data associated with sound absorption and sound transmission and transmission loss, and test data for walls and materials and all kinds of products, right? Because that's how, if somebody asks me and pays me a substantial amount of money to design a room, I don't guess. I look at what are the surface areas, what's the reflectance of that, what's the absorption, what's the room dimensions, and then what's the reverberation time goal, and then what materials can I use and thicknesses. If you were to actually take something and put it on a wall, that's one type of mounting. If you pull it an inch off the wall, that's actually a different type of mount, and you gain performance. It's almost the same as if you had 2 inches of material. So you could actually take those little pads, put them on a little plastic rail that sticks them off the wall a little bit, and then they would behave as if they were a 2-inch product.
Oh,
so all you'd have.
So I can hang my sponges off fishing line and just have them dangling in the door.
Yeah, you want to be careful of the window though.
I got that. I got that. I'm totally dangling all of my stuff inside the door now.
All of this is like on top of all the other shit, like is Deadener? Are we still using Deadener? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So say this is Deadener here.
All right. So what am I
on your door?
All right. So that's the first thing, right? That's the first thing you put on a metal door.
And this is your door here.
All right. Bet.
Right.
Yep.
I didn't know it until you spelled out door, but I'm on the point now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the sound absorption you're going to use would actually be on these little plastic rails. Like, this is an idea that I had a while back. So you just print these or cut and have these made, these little plastic rails, right, that had the ability to sandwich a material and then stood it off by about an inch. And then this blue here would be whatever sound absorptive material you want, whether it's rigid fiberglass in a bag, whether it's melamine foam, whatever, with something that's waterproof in some way, shape, or form. Now, you would gain some performance by the fact you have this dead air space behind there. So it would have your material costs, which kind of lowers cost as well. And then it would be offset slightly by the fact you have a couple pieces of plastic. Then you just have adhesive on this piece there and this piece there.
Game changer. What up, Troy Mason?
Man.
What up, Ed? What up, High Five Vega in the house? Hey,
so door sound absorption is important. But
before everyone else falls asleep, we need to ask you about sound deadening and SPL. So I think a lot of people, or actually some people, may realize that absorption is actually bad for SPL normally, like in theory, right? Because you want that energy transferred to the mic, right? You don't want it absorbed. Whereas Vibraflex normally, sometimes depending, it conserves it, sends it forward, just mass loads, adds rigidity, that sort of thing. So what can people do more effectively to treat panels to conserve energy and not have it absorb? Because that's what we're doing with CLD, right? We're absorbing it and transferring that energy into heat. So what can people do?
You want to make it more stiff, right? Increasing mass is an idea, but when you increase mass, you lower the resonant frequency to a point where maybe it's actually hurting your cause in an SPL standpoint as opposed to helping it. But you want to increase stiffness as much as possible. So make it hard. You know all about that.
Make it hard. Hey,
make it hard.
That's like right. The motto of the show, cut. Make it hard.
I know, right? So here's an idea. If you were to cut out, have you ever seen anybody that's just cut out ribs and then secured that to the roof? So find a way to make structural ribs to decrease the spacing between structural supports on your roof. Sure. That's how you stop some of that flex, right? You're making it very rigid. Now, ideally, you'd weld it, but people don't want to have to repaint their vehicle.
Well, it's also not legal in 99% of classes. But yeah, so heard it here first. Rigidity. That's what
Make
we
it
want.
stiffer. That's right. Absolutely. And you're right. Sound absorption can hurt you in an SPL. It depends on what you're focusing on, though. If you have a lot of problems with cancellation in your environment, then maybe you're actually going to eliminate some cancellation, and that elimination of cancellation might help you. Like my car's full of Ultra Touch, right? Like I got a 50 cubic foot bag of Ultra Touch in my car, everywhere.
So
every single air cavity.
So
it's ridiculous.
It is Rich's. It's his favorite product of Ultra Touch. Oh my God. It is like his shirt should probably be made of Ultra Touch.
Sound like a skeevy superhero.
And I'm not even kidding you. Like since he and I have been friends, I have spent about $1,000 on this shit.
I mean, I stuff every single hollow cavity in my car with it. When you knock on the roof of my car, it sounds like you're knocking on a couple layers of 3/4 inch MDF sandwiched together. And there's only, I don't know, maybe about 6 pieces of deadener about that big.
Skip's Googling it right now.
Googling
you see the light on his face?
Yep. Yeah, I do.
So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm actually making my
denim
dash
insulation.
That's right. I'm making my dash cover out of it now. So it's denim insulation. It comes in a roll. It's like $30 for a 6-pack or something like that. And basically, it's just really great at absorbing shit, right?
And the reason I like it is because it's not itchy like fiberglass.
Right.
Well, fiberglass works well, but as does mineral wool and products like that. But again, they're nice fibrous materials. But this stuff's great because it's.
So this is the stuff you put in the bag?
No, caveat. You can't put it indoors.
Outdoors.
Yeah, you can't.
Wet areas.
Wait, what?
Right, you can't put it in your doors.
Yeah,
Well, where do you have it at?
And I thought you meant like in your house.
Everywhere else.
You have it covering your car? What do you mean?
No.
You can't put it in your doors. Like we were just talking about insulation in a bag in your doors.
Yeah.
You can't put it in there.
This isn't the stuff you put in a bag in your doors?
No, because it's organic. And any organic material is what has the ability to actually get moist and high humidity, high wet areas. Then it could actually grow mold. Right, and that's why we like fiberglass, because fiberglass is inert. You don't actually grow mold because of fiberglass. It's the dirt that's in the water, that's in the door, that has the ability to grow something.
Y'all listening?
So you should be paying attention to this.
You
want inert materials if it's going to be wet, and then organic materials are okay if it's going to stay dry.
Dude,
and the inside of your car is going to be dry.
It's like the pink fiberglass shit, except you don't use the pink stuff, right?
No.
Pink fiberglass in your doors, Ultra Touch, literally everywhere else.
Everywhere else that water won't touch it?
Everywhere.
Well, every hollow cavity.
I'll sit there with do against road noise?
Poke it in. What's that?
Wait,
how does Ultra Touch do against road noise?
Do you put it in a bag first?
Awesome.
You put it in a bag?
No, not. So figure that.
I'm sorry, I asked that already. I know, but
that's fine. So in your car, you have all these hollow cavities, right? Where the manufacturers are increasing stiffness by adding these little ribs with these holes in them. All of those have an opportunity to resonate, as does every hollow metal cavity that you have. So I put it everywhere. My build log has videos. Actually, I do have a video showing how I've stuffed it up in the entire rear quarters. Now, if you knock on the panels of my car, they sound incredibly dead. You would think I put several layers of deadener on them, but I didn't. All I did was I put a couple patches of deadener to treat the structural resonance to a point, and I do that by knocking on it. I knock on it. I listen for the resonant sound, which is how long it takes for sound to go away. You knock on it, and then sound should stop immediately. And if it doesn't, then that means you have structural resonance. And if it sounds like it's tinny or high frequency, that lets you know that it's a higher resonant frequency. You can treat that, lower that with deadener, knock on it till it doesn't ring anymore. And then the rest of that is cavities just stuffed to the brim. Trunk lid, I got at least 10 cubic feet stuffed into my trunk lid.
That's what I'm talking about.
You would think I built it out of like multiple layers of MDF, and it's not. That's not that. So yes, it reduces road noise. It reduces resonance. It helps you to only hear what you want to hear.
Do you use
silky
MLV?
Sounds of music? I do use MLV, on the floor, because you have a large radiating surface. I also used it on my doors. So if you remember my build log, I actually did use that as the covering for my doors. Now, I'd say if anyone that's putting a speaker in their door, while we're talking about deadener and it sounds complicated, we're talking about sound absorption, it sounds complicated. Let's talk about foam weather stripping.
Oh.
And the vital importance of understanding that that plastic door panel in your car is the front of your speaker enclosure. That is your front baffle.
Oh yeah,
and
100%.
you must get that speaker to seal up against that. I mean, for multiple decades, every time someone swaps out their speakers, one of the primary complaints that I've heard has been, I lost a bunch of bass response. It's like, yeah, because you got a bunch of cancellation. Because you just screwed that speaker to the door, you didn't understand or take into account the rear wave is canceling with the front. So of course you're going to lose all your bass. You have to recreate that factory seal. Every factory speaker does it. That's why they actually seal up pretty good and they get the bass response they do if they don't have active equalization. And all it takes is $3 closed cell foam rubber weather stripping. Make a seal around your door and seal that puppy to it, and you're done. That is the most important.
You haven't seen
that anyone could do.
You haven't seen my video series. I think I spend like 15 minutes on that one stupid topic.
It's so important. It's so.
What about the front?
Man.
What about the front? Wait. Oh, wait.
No, I'm talking about the front.
Yeah, he's talking about the front. You talking about?
Oh, you're talking about the front?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a seal off the front of the woofer to the factory door card.
Yes.
Using what?
Close up.
Weather
What
stripping.
the crap is that? You just.
Oh man.
It's a boob.
You'll see. You don't know what that is?
What about those rings they specifically make for that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to ask him because he's gonna.
Oh, you want to
He's
hear me
not gonna-
talk?
He doesn't like those at all.
He's not gonna like.
You don't
All right,
like. You
so
don't
let's
like
talk
the.
about-
What are
let's
they
talk
called?
about fast rings.
Fast
Let's
rings.
talk
There
about
it is.
fast rings.
Here it is.
So
He
there's
just
two
called him
primary
out.
concerns with fast rings. I'll call them out because I appreciate that somebody decided to come to market with a product that addresses the primary complaint that I've had with aftermarket installations for decades. However, they just happen to use the wrong material. So
Hey, yo.
we don't want something that's that squishy because that's indicative of something that could absorb water and is very open. So it doesn't have a lot of transmission loss. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to mitigate sound from canceling out, right, coming from the rear and passing through, and also getting trapped within the space between our door card,
Right.
which is the door panel, and the metal in the car. So whatever we use to seal the speaker to that door panel needs to be as dense as possible, must be closed cell. And that's just not what fast rings are. Plus, they're so thick that when you smash them down, they have the opportunity to fold in, which then could actually put pressure on the surround and cause a failure of your speaker system.
So just one little clarification here because
I got another question
thought
on
we
that
were
too.
still talking about rear wave.
Yeah.
Just for clarification here, I call the plastic part the door card.
That's so gay. I'm sorry if
door
anybody's
card.
out there.
No, it's. I mean, I call it a door card too.
The
but that's more of an
metal is
OEM.
the panel. The
Nope.
metal.
Yeah.
There's an
Nope.
inner and an outer panel,
Nope.
and then there's a door card. There's three
Nope.
things in a door, and I go over this in my damn video series. So the door card. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about sealing the woofer
What do you
to
call?
the door card.
What do you call the metal part?
The panel.
Oh.
It's a metal panel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
can
it's-
say panel.
It's a door.
Or skin. It's the inner skin or outer skin.
What if-
panel?
What if your door card is so far off your speaker, you just keep putting layers until it touches the panel, the card?
Yeah, you want to have to
Yeah.
squish your door card
Okay.
onto it. But like he's saying, if it's too tall, when you smush it, it'll fold
Right.
and it'll jack it up.
Man, see, my stupid doors on the truck, they have to be like put on. You know, I can't squish it.
Yeah. But it's still kind of done like this. So you hang it and then you smush it.
This
right?
ain't working.
Fast rings, awesome idea. Wrong material.
Why don't we call them out? Why don't we email
We just
them?
did.
Yeah, but like email them, say, look, bro, why y'all use stupid shit?
And see, here's the thing: is
Card.
everybody needs two layers of this. The first one, so this is your speaker, right? Is that better?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first layer is going to be between the speaker and the metal.
That's
'cause
what
you want an
that's
airtight
what,
seal.
That's
and
what Fade was talking about.
That's right.
Yeah. And this is the same stuff, right? It's still just weather stripping foam.
Yeah.
So you're just going to do a ring of that. And again, it's like $3 for 10 linear
It's
feet of this
nothing.
stuff.
And it
Super
has
cheap.
it's sticky. It's
How-
a self-adhesive.
Yeah, it's a piece of cake.
amazing.
How thick
Yeah.
y'all doing that? Like a
I actually
so
get like the
depends.
quarter-inch. I get the quarter-inch stuff. It does really well and it smushes pretty good.
'Cause
I typically do quarter-inch.
Yeah.
But it
No, on
depends.
the
Like
front,
if you have
though-
a giant gap here,
Yeah,
Right.
on the
but you
front.
might actually do 3/4
Yeah.
here,
On the front, I get
and maybe you're
3/4.
half or 3/4 there.
I got
So
you.
you could gain an inch and a half if you needed to. Now, if it's really,
I
really
wish.
deep, you should probably be building a baffle out of like I don't know, cutting board or something like that, So you need both seals. You need this seal and you need this seal, and it needs to be dense. It needs to be closed cell rubber. It's cheap, it's easy, and everyone will be happy. So I appreciate Fast Rings for what they've brought to the industry, and they at least got people thinking about it. But they also sell the center piece as being, sticking inside the door and it absorbs sound. So they're thinking about the same concept. Again, it just comes down to using the right material.
I think they just didn't know what to do with the waste after cutting it out. You know what I mean? So they're like, hey, stick it behind the speaker.
It's going to help. I guarantee it's going to help. I mean, open cell foam of that thickness does have sound absorptive properties.
Why would you want to put open cell foam in your door, though? Like inside the cab, it's not a good idea. Yeah, don't do it.
No, it's a terrible idea, actually.
100 years ago, like before I knew a damn thing, someone had a thread out there or something about using non-hardening modeling clay. Yeah, that is the worst idea ever. Is so bad. Is the worst. Don't anyone ever put non-hardening modeling clay in your door ever. Don't do it.
Well, hardening modeling clay.
Or
not at all. So the idea behind the non-hardening was a good idea, and it's a neat concept. The problem is that it's in a hot summer day, it starts getting a little liquid.
It sucks. It's the worst.
What I have done is I've, like on my Honda, for example, I have the plastic speaker adapter that I used, but because it's hollow and resonant, it's problematic. I did stuff that entire gap on the inside of that with non-hardening modeling clay, and then went over it with deadener, so I could completely encapsulate and seal it.
You seal it up.
That worked.
Okay, but if you seal it up and like make a enclosure,
you got to encapsulate it. It gets really, really liquid in the summer, so you don't want to.
Rich has a turbo Honda, by the way.
Ooh,
I don't have a turbo Honda.
It's not turbo?
Man. It's basic. Well, it's a 14. They didn't offer a turbo back then.
You got to upgrade. You got to get that upgrade.
I have put like 250 hours into this stupid car. I think I'm a stellar.
Never happened.
It's ridiculous. They got stolen, and I kept it when I got back.
Dude, that's why all of my shit is like temporarily permanent, because I know it's out of here in like a year.
So what if you have because I still don't know anything about this, but I'm trying to take tips from Fade here and there. So I'm trying to do this new little F-150 build decently right the way. So I bought a couple of different things, like a couple of different acrylics and stuff, because I need to make door adapters, because right now I have like 6x8s or something, but I want to put a 6.5. So I bought like 5 or 6 different little like acrylics, some kind of PVC, ABS, some kind of things, and I sent them off to get adapters. So where would I put the foam there? Like I would put the foam between the door panel and the adapter, or the or both, or the speaker and both. Okay,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I'd say both. Now you have an option though. So we haven't talked about green glue yet.
Here we go.
Oh Lord!
Oh my goodness! This is my goodness! Oh my goodness! Ah. So green glue is a viscoelastic damping adhesive that essentially provides true deadening between two different rigid materials.
I'm writing this down.
So, yeah, just green glue. Anyone can go to greenglue.com and you can see this product. You can buy it at Home Depot or any other place for like $11 for a giant tube. It's a big tube though, right? Like it's not the small little caulk gun tubes, it's a larger one. But it never hardens. That's one of the magic parts about it, is because it's viscoelastic damping adhesive, it's got elastomeric properties, and that is to say that it stays sticky, it stays soft. And again, we talk about like how things behave on a molecular level. If I want to make one room, if I want to produce noise in one room and I don't want to hear it in the next room, I have a lot of tricks up my sleeve I can use for that, different products. But green glue between layers of JIP is one of the more effective ways to do that. And there's a lot of ways we can go into that at some other time. But it's an excellent product for that. So you could actually, in lieu of using this kind of stuff, like a foam, between your panel and your door, if you had enough of a mating surface where it made sense, you could apply that instead. And you would actually get true sound damping, which would reduce the amount of sound energy that's going to be incident in that baffle, that's going to get into the metal door. And that's really the other thing that this foam does, is it helps isolate that speaker. Now you got to be a little careful, because if it's too spongy, the speaker, actually the entire basket can move, which could do some kind of weird things with the way it sounds. You could create more problems by trying to solve some other problems. But
so that would probably be better between maybe the adapter and the door panel, just because.
Yes.
I mean, it would make a mess if I put it. Does it get any? Does it get like? Is it sticky? Like, I mean, does it get?
It's just sticky. Yeah, it's sticky and it stays sticky. Now it's called green glue, but it's not actually an adhesive. It's not a glue per se. It's just really sticky. So you're still going to bolt it and screw it down. We've also looked at the idea of using well nuts, which is a encapsulated nut made out of rubber. So then that way you get some more isolation between like the fasteners and the basket and the metal. Anything you can do to stop that vibration energy from transferring into the metal inside the door, the better off you are. Because essentially what happens is that entire metal panel vibrates and becomes another speaker.
Do you do any? I see those fast rings. They put it right behind the speaker too. Do you do anything different besides that behind the speaker,
I do the fiberglass in bags.
Okay. You just
do
do that over the whole door, or like like Deadnary, they say you could do 25% of the door, but do you just do the whole as much as you can in there?
I do as much as I feel like fitting in there. I mean, it's my door. I started off with just like I would say there may be 5/8 thick fiberglass panels. Now I got about 2 inches thick, and it's almost everywhere. It's insane.
So you just can't roll your windows down, huh?
No, they roll down just fine. Absolutely. Oh, you got to be able to use the door.
Yeah.
Now I use like an aluminum foil tape or something. You got to be careful around your window movement.
Right.
Because obviously you don't want to tear the bag. So you got to pay real close attention to the moving parts inside of a door, and just they don't require any maintenance. It's not. Some people also ask me, am I going to hear the bags? Like, am I going to hear these plastic bags rattling around?
The answer is yes.
Well, if you do it the way Tife does it, then yes, you're going to hear them. You do it the way I do it, and then absolutely not. But remember, I'm using a rigid fiberglass panel these days. I'm not just putting the Pink Panther insulation in.
What are you using then? What are you using exactly?
So exactly, it'd be like Armstrong 703. So Armstrong is manufacturer of insulation. Now you can order these panels online.
You have to.
Home Depot and Menards and places like that. In my neck of the woods, they actually sell a 2-foot by 4-foot sheet for $6 because it's $60 for a 10-pack. So they'll actually sell one-offs, but it's a ceiling tile. But it's got to be fiberglass. So if you can't find that stuff, then you can certainly order it.
Yeah,
we
might
pay a little bit more than $6.
They don't carry it around here. Yeah. A couple people are asking give a shout out to your YouTube channel so these guys can check out some of your videos.
Oh, that's a good idea. Well, really, just look up my name, Richard Vedvik.
Richard Vedvik. Oh, that's right. That's your YouTube channel, isn't it? Richard Vedvik. I have to warn y'all, it's pretty
it's sciencey, huh?
It is pretty sciencey. Like, you really gotta dig for the one that you want. Because some of his shit is like, what? Honestly, now, the last video that I watched of yours.
I can't even read that.
The last video I watched of yours about analyzing like a stock signal.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That is the most like it should be such an awesome video, but it is so retarded, like molecular level, like we were talking about earlier. Like no one, honestly, I know what you're talking about, and I have no idea what you're talking about. So you need to like dump. I told Skip before we got on, like dumbing things down is not your strong suit.
Dude, I'm following along basically a lot right now. So
yeah, I'm keeping.
And if I
one of the things that I've been told before is that if you ask me what time it is, I'm gonna tell you how to build a watch.
Right. That's exactly
right. Like,
that's exactly right.
Then you don't ever have to ask me what time it is again. So I do plan on doing a whole series of acoustical classes on that channel, and I've had a lot of requests to talk about ultracapacitor balancing lately. So I'm gonna go into the methods of balancing ultracapacitors. I actually have on order like 7 or I think 10 digital voltmeters, little small ones. So that way I can show the voltage across each one of the caps simultaneously and then put a load on them. And then you can see, without balancing, with balancing, does it matter for a car? I mean, that's one of the questions people ask. Like, why on earth would you run them without balancing? I'm like, well, it's because I'm operating with a pretty substantial safety factor here. The voltage drop across the caps in a car environment is, quite a bit less than their rating. And they can handle a little bit more than that. Now, in some GM vehicles where you could actually see 15 volts out of the alternator, you probably want to balance that. But I've never had that condition happen in my Honda ever. It's 14.4 max at all times. So I understand that I'm fine. But I also understand that, not all applications are the same. And I should be spending more time talking about the balancing methods and making sure people are doing that too.
So you use caps in your SQ vehicle?
Yes, dude. Whoa. He's been on the cap train since like before caps were cool.
Whoa.
As soon as it got leaked that guys in USACI were using them.
Fade. I say it every show. Fade is the ruination of DIY cap people. Oh my God! They used to be $200 for like 12.
No, $225 a dozen.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yep.
Shipped on eBay,
Yep.
and now it's just chaos. Like
I got maybe.
He's got them up under the back
6 or
deck,
7
or you
banks.
used to, right? Yeah,
I still do.
Yeah, he's got a bank under the rear deck.
Dude.
I've been running them since
SQ-ness.
2010. Yeah. Well, I mean, SQ, of course we want them in SQ, because what are we looking for? We're looking for transients.
That's
We're
right.
looking for dynamic passages, right? When there's a crescendo, we don't want the alternator or the battery to have to be the sole responsible electrical source, because they're slow, archaic methods. They're not fast enough. No, absolutely not.
Y'all don't turn it
so,
up
of course, we
loud,
want ultra caps in SQ vehicles.
Do y'all do distance tests in SQ?
No.
Do you know what a distance test is?
No.
That dude, you know here's what a distance test is.
I want somebody.
Some moron
pulls
off off the side of the road, and then they walk half a mile away from their vehicle to see if they can hear it.
No,
well,
I want to see. I
want
to see a legit SQ guy build like a distance test monster stunt wall.
Dude, for real, one of the guys I want to have on the show, Aaron Hardison, he has a website, Medley's Musings.
Medley Musings, yeah.
His front will run you out of that car.
I like loud music. That's my scary.
It will run you out of there. It'll run you out of there.
Aaron's a good dude, man.
All pro audio front stage, and it'll run you out of there.
Yeah,
and it sounds amazing.
I always want to do pro audio in a car, man. I've wanted to do that for a long time.
Get it.
I say it I feel like I say it every show. Pro audio is awesome. It's low distortion, high sensitivity, high efficiency, whatever, however you want to say it. The problem is most of the pro audio is not pro audio. It's garbage. It's garbage.
I got a buddy that has his own pro audio business, designs his own speakers. I mean, he's got his own semis, his own stages now. I mean, in junior high, he just started off by, doing dances and DJing weddings and stuff. And now he's got an entire company. He used to have Eminence build speakers for him to his specs, and he'd order like 50 at a time and whatnot. Wow. Now he just buys straight BNC. I mean, he just runs whatever BNC makes. He loves it, man.
There's a fly in here.
I thought you were dancing.
We had Danley Sound Labs come out to the office one day and bring a bunch of their speakers and ring them up and did some demos. They got some neat stuff too.
You name drop Danley, but this audience doesn't know who Danley is. Tell them how much a pair of Danley towers are.
Well, I mean, we typically deal in the outdoor pro audio stuff where you could spend tens of thousands of dollars for a driver, or not a driver, but an enclosed speaker system.
They on Parts Express.
Danley towers. Danley home towers is like 10,000 a piece or some crazy shit.
How many?
Wilson Audio,
but that's
I've listened to Wilson Audio Max 3s. They're $50,000 a pop per tower.
How can it?
Dude,
how can that be? What is the justification for that price?
They're actually using, I think, the Focal top end Focal drivers too in those. And Wilson Audio speakers.
But here's the thing: when you don't have Focal, Utopia, M's in a tower, what can possibly justify the price of a cabinet for $100,000? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, that's what I mean. Though, you're paying for the R&D. Home audio and car audio. The primary difference is that in home audio, you're paying for the R&D to build the enclosure and the crossover. In car audio, we're the designers. We're the engineers. We pick raw drivers and we wire everything up. We put them in custom locations. We vary what we're doing for tuning. We do our own crossover systems, our own time delay systems. We generate the enclosure of those drivers. So, of course, it seems cheap to us because we're just buying raw materials and donating our time.
No, that's not justification. No way. Not in a million years. Because
it's
no. Listen, because you could sell it for $1,000 and sell 100 of them instead of selling it for $10,000 and selling 10 of them. It's just they keep the prices artificially inflated because there's no effing reason in the world that cabinet should cost $100,000. That is retarded.
They're trying to recoup their R&D costs. I mean,
sell 100 of them for $1,000.
Assume they spend a year designing that, and they got a team of 2 or 3 people.
And
right?
they didn't.
So they
It's
got a
box.
couple $100,000 in just labor.
Dude, it's a wooden box.
Love it.
Yeah, but they're still experimenting with it. They're still designing and testing and designing and testing. You're paying for the heat. You're paying for the lights. You're paying for the anechoic chamber that they test it with, or the equipment that they own or rent. You're paying for all of their R&D, and then eventually, if they sell enough of them, they break even, and then from there they can start making profit.
You're telling me that a $100,000 tower a piece,
right there,
$100,000 inside,
the Alexandrias,
is justified?
That's
you tell
break
me
even.
That's justified?
It's break even money.
I think it's madness.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. We agree.
It's nuts. I've heard, like I said, the Max 3s. I haven't heard the Alexandrias though. And my issue with the Max 3s was the soundstage was too high.
Look, wait, can I ear if I buy the whatever the DIY Dayton tower is on Parts Express for like $200 versus that $100,000 tower, can somebody point out which one sounds better? You can 100% feel it. Okay.
100%.
Bull crap.
Not
me, not the average guy though. Y'all two maybe, but not the average guy.
Yes, you 100% could.
Absolutely.
You 100% could. I promise you could.
Why? What's different? What's different?
You'll just have to hear it. Now, if you switch back and forth between good amps, no. But those speakers versus those speakers, 100% you could tell the difference. Is it $100,000 better? No, not even close. It's not $1,000. Well, maybe $1,000.
All right. Well, at what point can you hear like $100,000 and then I get $1,000 setup? Not the Dayton ones, because whatever you want to call it. But
now you're talking. All right. Now you're talking $1,000 to $100,000. Right. Now you're talking about you're talking nuances.
1,000 is still pretty cheap though. I would say 10,000 to 100,000.
Here's the thing, right? Jeff Bagby, I know you know him, right? So he has a set of speakers that some people have called the best in the world, and they're like less than $1,000 to build yourself. You can get the whole kit, crossovers that he designed, and the drivers and the whole thing, and people go bananas over these things. He's won like whatever in Diana and all this shit. Now, I've never heard them, but if other people are calling them the best speakers in the world versus $200,000 towers, you can't tell me that there's $100,000 worth of difference between Bagby's Kairos and whatever bullshit Focal is trying to sell me, or whatever is somebody that I've never even heard of is trying to sell me with silver speaker wires. It's retarded.
And by the way, when I was listening to those Max 3s, he was telling me about the $4,000 pads that he puts his amplifier on that makes the speakers sound better.
Exactly.
No, I'm with you on that. And he had a straight face too.
Dude, tell him what aisle the Home Depot shit is on you to use.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
bro,
yo, man,
I got Ultra Touch. Here's some Ultra Touch, bro.
So here's what you do. When you're picking a speaker system, you're deciding what distortion, what coloration am I willing to live with? Because nothing's ideal. Everything that comes out of the front of the cone is what you want to hear, and then you're going to hear diffraction effects of the baffle. Then you're going to hear the resonance of the enclosure. You're going to hear the sound and the coloration that the enclosure gives you. And then the driver pairing with the crossover and the phase response, that's all going to have an effect too, right? So all of it changes. You don't actually ever hear an exact replication of the original signal. You're always going to get coloration. And every speaker topology, every design, every type, whether it's horn driven, whether it's cone driven, they all have different levels of distortion and coloration. So we just get to decide what coloration do we like. When someone says it has warmth, that just means it has extra mid-range distortion. And when you hear a speaker that's really, really well built and designed, and all of a sudden that coloration goes away, that's when you realize something special. There's something different about that. And that's essentially what you hear. So driver selection, you could use those $100,000 speaker systems. Don't have more than a couple $1,000s worth of drivers in them.
Not even
retail cost,
exactly.
That's
right?
what I mean. Yeah, stuff like that. See,
that stupid
but the
wooden
enclosures
box is not $97,000. Jerk off.
You're assuming,
dude. It makes me angry. No, for real. It's like modern art. Home theater is like modern art. It's like what are people willing to pay to think that they have the coolest shit? and that's what they charge.
Well, you should be mad at Bose then, because their company motto is 700% profit on any product they make.
Bose is still relatively affordable and is pretty awesome. I don't give a shit what like the HT, like all the purists and all the snobs think.
Yeah.
Bose is pretty awesome because
they do a ton of engineering.
That's exactly right, because it is amazing engineering, and Bose is like the gateway drug to audio, like HT for a lot of people. They hear Bose coming from their TV speakers and like mind blown. And so they like, oh my God, I gotta save up for Bose, and they get Bose.
Oh my God, sounds like Paul Harvey's right in my living room.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was one of those people. When first time I heard a Bose Acoustimass system, I was like, oh my God. It was amazing. And I can't say there's no way I'm alone in that. I'm telling you. Bose was
obviously
awesome.
not. They sell more speakers than everyone else combined.
That's right.
For the most part.
And they use the cheapest, crappiest speakers known to man.
Yeah. And they make them work. Nice. They understand what most people associate with good sound. They've done a lot of marketing. It's better sound through marketing is mostly what I consider Bose to be. But obviously, as you said, it's a gateway drug. When I used to sell home audio speakers, we sold Bose, and that company had sold Bose for like 50 years. And anyone that came in and said, I want a Bose speaker, I would walk them to the Bose section. I would say, which size would you like? How much money do you have? And they would like, I have X number of dollars, then here you go. And every once in a while, they would say, what's this Paradigm stuff? I'm like, oh, that's just another company that makes speakers. They're like, well, why come they're less expensive than this? And are they that bad? I'm like, well, you're welcome to hear anything you'd like to hear. And everyone that heard something else said, how come that sounds better? I thought Bose was the best in the world. And I'm like, again, sounds subjective. They do a really good job marketing their speakers. Heck, it got you in the door to talk to me. So right. I'll say whatever you want. I'll demo whatever you want. You can listen to them in a variety of environments. But at the end of the day, it's whatever makes you happy. Music's an emotion.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if it's Bose specifically or who engineers it, but Bose factory car stereo systems are good. Like the speakers aren't all that great, but the processing involved with that system is pretty amazing.
It is really neat. In fact, if you play with a fader in those cars, you can actually see how much the rear speakers are attributing to the front soundstage.
That's right. And that is not easy to do. Like you're talking about all pass filters and shit.
Dude, they're savvy. There's no doubt about they're savvy.
For real,
they reached out to me. Bose asked me to apply for a job in their headphone design.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't want to live in the East Coast, so I said no thanks.
Hey, on that topic, wait. Go ahead.
Oh, you had something else? No, that's what I wanted to talk about. I'm not talking about, but that's what I brought up a bunch of times to like, who was that? Steve Stern, asking about like factory, like is there a factory car that can compete? And he said the new Cadillacs, like didn't he say that like they were like over a 70 in Mecca score?
Oh, like, that does sound familiar.
Like that's what I was talking about. Like the Bose things. Like man, that's just nuts how good quality newer cars are getting compared to like a
and you're not even talking about some of the factory stuff like with Bang & Olufsen and and those like those lens tweeters that come up out of the dash. What car has that?
A Benz Mercedes, I think. Huh?
Now, I read an article. IEEE Spectrum had an interview with the acoustical engineer that designed the Audi A8 Bang & Olufsen sound system, and he said he used 248 notch filters to tune that car.
Oh my God.
He figured out like at 88 hertz, the rear seat buckle rattled, right? Because that's right. And so he notch filtered it. And, that's the challenge in a car is like you're given like, here's the locations because that's what looks good. And this is all you get to spend and this is all you get for space. But now you get DSP. So now guys are getting real clever, and gals, of course, are getting very clever with tuning and DSP and saying, well, I can notch filter all the problem areas out and all the resonance out and actually get something that sounds pretty darn good.
What's a notch filter?
That's a high Q filter. So if you were to look at it from a frequency response curve,
I don't know what that is.
It would do this.
What's a high Q filter?
The Q has to do with the width. So this is high Q. This is low Q.
Remember, we've talked about parametric EQ
equalizer.
Oh yeah, who was talking? Mansville was talking about that. Oh yeah,
right.
I just found out what that was. Yeah, from Mansville.
Yeah. You got that.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, I use
because they have the Dayton now.
Oh, dude.
Bro.
You can play with that.
Yeah.
Mini
Dude,
DSP, Dayton,
see?
VXI, they all give you.
Skip don't like to
really-
talk about it, but he's like
I'm
dabbling.
learning.
He's like dipping the toe in the SQ
Like,
world.
I don't know. I'm not an ask hole, but I don't know what the other version of like somebody that asks it but doesn't retain it and they just keep asking it every week. I don't know what the version of that is, but that's what I am.
Dude,
I just
for
keep
real,
asking.
Rich is one of those guys who is super like he'll stick with you until you get it.
Alright.
And that's why you were so popular on the forums. If anybody remembers the forums or if anybody was active on the forums,
What's a
especially
forum?
caraudio.com, then
Fun sound domain back in the day.
Rich. His screen name was Keep Hope Alive, and he had that weird ass avatar with the whatever the crap it was. But yeah, in your signature, it was like, dude, if you need anything, PM me. I'll help you out.
I used to spend about 2 hours a day on forums for about 10 years. I'd spend about 2 hours a day answering questions from people, lots of PMs and lots of all information. So maybe on the order of like 300,000 posts or so. None of them, off topic, all of them fairly professional. Just helping people out.
I remember because I was like, oh my God, this guy is not in off topic talking about boobs. He is like, he's in the shit.
You remember
in the shit.
You remember when they stopped counting your off-topic posts until your like real post or something like that?
Yeah.
That used to be fun.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I felt like if someone's going to take
Spider
the
Monkey was
opportunity,
ruined.
if they're going to come to a forum and they're going to honestly ask a question, the last thing they should be is lambasted. The fact that they're asking the question, I got respect for them.
Yeah.
They understand that they need some information and they're openly just like, hey, who can help me out? Now, yeah, the which subwoofer is louder, I kind of avoid that stuff. It gets a little annoying, but because that's not a genuine question in my opinion. A genuine question is, here's my problem, here's what I've tried to do, and now I'm stuck. Like, I always appreciated people that took the time to write in complete sentences, to use punctuation, and they explained what they did, and they had some specific questions that we can answer. I'll always respect someone and give them the time to answer them.
One of the other things was like you were business, like you were all business on the forums. Like when you were talking audio, like we're talking about audio. We're not like bullshit and making jokes, sarcasm, whatever. So it was like super professional. And I don't mean like in a bad way. I mean in a really good way. I was like, this guy has got his shit in a pile. I need to have him down to Buffalo Wild Wings in Baton Rouge is what I was thinking.
That's weird.
Although we went to what was the name of that?
Asian Zing, bro.
No, what was the name of that place?
Not Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a good place.
Losers.
No, but
I'm down in Texas in 2 weeks.
So Richard Vedvik on Facebook. If anybody wants to ask Rich anything, there you go.
That's right.
Richard Vedvik.
That's right. I will happily spend as much time. And if the question gets to be too detailed, then that's when I give him my phone number. So I've given it out maybe, 150 times or so to people, either in forums or in messages and things like that. Say, listen, this is a topic you probably want let's have a conversation about it. Let's just talk through it. If you're willing to listen and you want to learn a little bit, then I'm happy to talk.
Are you still asking questions, Faith? So what do you do with, you're not. So what do you do with, I have a huge hole in my door, what do you want to call it? Door panel? The actual metal piece?
Yeah.
Now, Faye's just covering it with deadener because he's lazy. But the best way is to like cut out some kind of plastic and, rivet it to it to seal the whole door. Or
remember that you want this to be rigid. We come back to the rigidity portion. Transmission loss is good and rigidity is also good. So I've done a couple different things. If you get some sheet metal and you put deadener on that and you self-tap screw and screw it over, you've essentially created a removable rigid panel. Now you got to be careful because some cars actually have window supports that are things that are mounted to the door card that jut in. So you might have to play with that a little bit. You'll know as soon as you take the door off. If that plastic has a cutout or folds in a little bit, then you might have to deal with that. But yeah, you want it as rigid as possible. So deadener with on sheet metal works pretty well. Aluminum sheet metal is great because it's not going to rust. I've used mass-loaded vinyl before.
That's good.
And that's okay. But see, it actually has an odd side effect because that means it's almost acting like a passive radiator that's not tuned. So it's an odd thing to do. It's what's in my car right now. I'm not happy with it.
In my video, I said that a lot of people use plexiglass or they'll do sheet metal. I can't find any sheet metal here, like, because I like to source things that are readily available. So the only sheet metal that I can find is very, very thin gauge on a roll, and it is a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass.
Are you baking with that? Baking fish
hate
with that?
I hate
So
it.
I had someone ask me today about flashing, about sheet metal flashing on my YouTube channel, and asked me if he could use that with deadener. And as long as it's flat, yeah, that'll work. Most of like Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, those places, they always sell back in their like perforated metal section with the unistrut and the threaded rod. They'll usually have just flat pieces of sheet metal stock. And for whatever reason people want to use sheet metal stock for. There's no reason
maybe I'm
couldn't
looking
just
in
use
the
that.
wrong section then, but
They should have that there.
What I do a lot of times, if the hole is not humongous, I stretch tape over the hole and then I deaden the crap out of it, and it's dead. Like when I'm done with it, it is dead. There's no passive radiation going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's pretty dead.
Then that's
And
it.
like I
You
said-
can't. You're
like
not
I
getting
say
in
in my
there.
video,
You'd have to cut it out.
That's the problem, is you got to cut it out.
Yeah,
to get back
you
into your
just
door.
you seal you mummified it. You know,
Yeah,
you put it
but
in
it's
a
super-
tomb.
I own a knife.
then
Besides,
you don't keep
when
cars
I do
that
my
long.
doors,
You
I don't
don't-
ever want to go back in.
And you don't keep cars that long anyway, so that's the next guy's problem.
Oh, that's
That's
also
problem.
true.
Go change your
That's
door
right, yeah.
actuator, buddy.
So that's why I like the sheet metal screws and the deadened sheet metal approach, because then you actually have a removable panel. And if you need to shape it, you can actually bend and shape that piece pretty easily. You can bend it with your hands.
Shout out to 12 Volt Talk because they just had on Mark Car Audio Fab on there. Is that his name? Mark, Car Audio
Sure.
Fabrication.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
YouTube. And I watch way too many of his videos, and he makes it look way too easy, and I don't like that. I don't like that.
Oh my god!
But he did those. I literally want to buy one. He did those threaded insert rivet type things.
They're selling them at Harbor Freight.
That was the sickest thing I ever seen though, because you could just bolt it on and take it off, machine screw, for the
They
panel
sell
we're talking
the-
about right now.
Yeah, it's called a riv nut. They sell
Nah,
it. They sell
it's
that at Harbor
it's some
Freight.
kind of special order thing. I don't know.
It's $20
Nah,
for
it's
a
not
kit.
that. It's not
I
that at
swear
all.
to God.
Yeah,
Nah,
they're just rib nuts.
It's like $1,000 for the machine.
No,
though. Yeah, it
no,
is. That's what I heard.
Riv nut,
That's what High
Riv
Five
nut.
Vega told me.
crackhead, Harbor Freight.
All right, well, shit on me.
They work pretty well.
But they are awesome.
Yeah, that's cool because you could just
They're
bolt, you could
amazing.
just machine screw it on and take it off if you wanted to. That was cool. But you would want
Yeah,
to
you
put.
got to make sure that it doesn't rattle.
Yeah, so I was about to say. So you want to put some kind of foam or something behind that also, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
like bugle rope.
I'll cut a deadener. So if you cut a small square
just gonna
out of
test the tape
something
the
and
whole
then put
door.
a split down the middle, so it basically kind of creates a bit of a Y. Like I've had, once you start making your doors quiet, the plastic clips that hold the door to the car, you can hear those vibrate in your door. So I'll take like some the Ensolite, like the sheet rolls of closed cell foam. I like using that as a gasketing material and also could possibly rub against each other. Got to put soft stuff between the hard things if you want to mitigate rattling.
Hey,
Hey, that's right.
that's why I got.
But yeah, you got to have
women.
something soft in there. As
All
much
right,
as possible.
so we got to wrap this up, but we're gonna let you have an opportunity to tell us what products that you use, that you prefer.
Each
Have
one,
you
each
any-
step. Deadener.
Have
then
you
the other
have you
stuff.
any testing on these? Is this like a personal preference or like scientific discovery type shit or what? Like, what do you use? Okay, number one, CLD. What do you use?
I've been using Ram Audio Ram at BXT2
Why?
because I just buy it and I like it. It works. That's why.
That's super scientific
Don't
answer.
Yeah,
ask.
you'd expect like this really detailed answer. Like,
honestly,
building a network system,
I was
run the
ready.
math, and my calculator
Actually,
says.
I already knew that, but I wanted to see if you had a justification for it heretofore. So
No,
I
there's
know
no
you
reason.
like
I
Ram
just-
Audio. Actually, that guy, he has a Fiesta ST. So I used to talk with him on the Fiesta ST
Oh,
forums
yeah.
all the time. Yep.
No, I haven't been disappointed with his shipping practices. The product's been fine. I also get the closed cell foam sheets from him too, the Ensolite. So I've done several cars with it, done all my own cars, and I've been fine with it. It's worked well.
Do you follow Chris Purdue's testing?
Yeah, I've messaged him before. We're friends.
Okay.
too.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Do y'all are you giving him advice? Like,
Not that much. We've chatted a couple times. I mean, I told him like when he's about ready to do stuff, if he's got any questions, he can always hit me up. And
Okay, good.
I could at least identify or evaluate his test rig and make sure that he's not missing a step.
okay, good. Good deal.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So CCF, any preferences?
I typically use the Ensolite Ram Audio Ram
Yep.
Audio Insulate. Just because it's handy, it's 1/8 inch, it's cheap in sheets, it's got a pressure sensitive adhesive. However, it's squeaky as hell. So I usually go over it with a heat gun after I apply it to get some of the squeak out. It basically helps melt that plastic adhesive layer, mitigate some of the noise that it causes.
That has an adhesive layer on it, you said, so you don't need nothing else?
Yep.
Okay.
No spray glue. Yeah.
Right. Or what else do you use? Like a Velcro or something? Or is that the next step you're talking about?
Some people do.
Okay.
No. I mean,
that's the mass loaded stuff, huh? That's the MLV.
No,
Yeah,
well, some people hang their CCF with Velcro too.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I see people overuse CCF in general. It's really just a gasketing material.
Is that
it's not providing sound
possible? I
absorption.
will CCF all the things.
I mean, I've CCF'd entire things too, and it looks cool. I mean, that's why I do it. Like, oh, look, it looks so cool, right? Like it looks good in a photo because everything was all shiny metal from your deadener coverage, and then it's all black from your foam coverage, and it looks acoustic. It looks very acoustic.
I use yoga mats. I don't know if you've seen my videos. This is only the 10th time I brought them up,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and I'm not kidding. I actually use yoga mats.
Well, yoga mats are nice and dense. I mean, I've actually used vinyl flooring remnant in a truck before with jute carpet padding as poor man's MLV with decoupling.
Yes.
In a Toyota Tacoma, and it worked great. It substantially lowered road noise.
So
but it looked
MLV,
ridiculous.
I tell people all the time, you got to have a pound a foot, or you're wasting your time. So you're saying half a pound a foot.
It's fine. And here's why. If you look at so we talked about sound absorption coefficients being how you evaluate whether or not something absorbs sound. Transmission loss is the third octave or octave band transmission loss values is what you're going to look at for these types of materials. Exactly. So they're numbers that tell you how many decibels of attenuation you get at each octave band. So you're going to look at the difference between half and 1 pound and say it's not that different. But again, you're worried about flanking paths. All the other areas that sound can get in around the area you're treating is going to determine what you end up hearing. So there's no sense in doing overkill on one area if you're not going to do the entire damn vehicle, and you can't do anything about your glass. Laminated glass would be the best way to make that improvement, which means you got to buy a car that has laminated glass in all the windows. That'd be your best shot. So if you bought a real quiet car.
That's right. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So what MLV are you buying? Which is there a product exactly?
Ram Mat.
Ram Mat MLV?
No, not Ram Mat. For years, Home Depot actually sold this crap called DB3 that was like 0.75 pounds a square foot or something like that, and you could get free shipping, so it was super cheap. The problem with MLV is you're paying to ship something that weighs a ton of weight. You can get pretty creative as well. I have access to like contractors and things like that. So, and a variety of materials. ACOUSTIBLOCK is a pretty nice material. I spec that a lot. I have a variety of those samples. If you go to ACOUSTICALServices.com, you can usually find a variety of products as well. It's just see if you can get anything shipped to your local hardware store for free. Because if you can get free shipping on it, you're going to have your cost. And mass-loaded vinyl is mass-loaded vinyl. It doesn't matter who puts their name on it. I mean, for the most part, it's providing transmission loss based on its density. So just find the best price you can and try and get free shipping.
You know what I wanted to ask you before we get out of here was 3M Thinsulate. I think you and I have talked about it before, but is it as good as your bag method? Is it hydrophobic? Where the crap do we find it these days?
I mean, when I'm doing outdoor acoustic solutions where I want to absorb sound outside, a lot of times it's from equipment and stuff like that, or in ductwork, for example, there are some melamine style foams and some closed cell foams that do have some performance, but it's not fair to judge that in a duct as it is in a car, even though a door in a car is kind of like a duct type material. So sound waves are traveling the length of that door and coming back. So they do actually realize almost, 6 feet of travel length before they come back to that door. So you can actually get mid-bass absorption. People ask me too, like, well, if it's only that thick, the sound absorption coefficients of that on axis are really, really poor when it's thin. Except remember that sound absorption coefficients are measured with a perpendicular reflecting plane. If it travels down the door, now all of a sudden you're realizing a different thickness. The angle of incidence is gonna determine the actual realized thickness. So you got to take that into consideration too. That's why thinner materials can work indoors.
Angle of incidence.
Angle of incidence matters.
If it comes in like this, it's only seeing half an inch. If it comes in like this, it's seeing like a whole inch. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right. And if it travels longitudinally down the
And
door,
if
then
it's
gonna see
bouncing
even
back and
more.
forth. I also
That's
talk
right.
about this in my video.
Yeah,
Shout out.
That's right.
All right, last chance. I actually my phone died, so last chance for anyone to ask Rich anything that they want to know about acoustics before we sign off. And Richard Vedvik on YouTube, also Richard Vedvik on Facebook. His
And in
messenger
real
is
life.
open.
And in real life.
And in real life.
He's-
And in real life.
That's nuts.
Yeah, you can Google me and see all kinds of stuff.
This guy is a pimp in the world of acoustics, acoustic.
Is there like school for that?
Engineering, all that.
There's school for
Yeah,
that?
there is. I mean, I have a bachelor's of science in electrical engineering with an emphasis in analog digital circuit design because I wanted to actually design audio equipments and amplifiers. My original goal for being a double E was I wanted to design audio equipment. And then I realized that that's a job that you can only do in certain parts of the world. So I also had an emphasis in power system design, designing transmission lines. And then I got a job designing buildings and hospitals. So I kind of covered the entire gamut from power generation to distribution in a building to individual power supplies and things like that. And then acoustics is just an opportunity that our firm had available to me. I was always passionate about it and always interested in it. So then I was able to get involved in our acoustics department, and I've been doing that for almost 10 years now.
Are you going?
I do both.
Oh, you're too far up north. You ain't going to Aggieland, huh?
Dude,
No.
when Rich came down, they were traveling through. It was him and a couple other guys. And so Rich is like the acoustic engineer, and then you had some other dude who had a different field,
mechanical engineer,
and then you had another guy that was like
he was an
architect. I'm like, man, y'all need to make an SPL team. The three of y'all could come up with the most ridiculously loud vehicle in the history of mankind. Like, put all your gray matter together, smush it up, and like spit out this retarded.
I've actually been really unsuccessful in my very small budget-oriented SPL builds.
That's because you're sciencing it.
I'm thinking way too hard.
Yeah, you got to take Tommy K's advice. He's like, "Welcome to SPL, where nothing makes any effing sense." So just do what you do. You know, do the thing.
Conary and power, man.
Yeah, just drop your own load until it stops gaining.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
keep turning the gain,
right.
bro.
Awesome. Well, look.
So
we
yeah, if anyone ever has
Rich.
a question,
yep,
they're welcome to just reach out to me.
I will. Fade's getting tired of me asking questions. So
honestly, I never, ever, ever. Rich and I are the same in this way that we never ever tire of talking about audio and answering questions and doing the thing. So, anybody ever wants to message me, anybody ever wants to message Rich, I'm telling you, his inbox is always open.
What's the dumbest question you ever had? Before we get out, what's the dumbest question you ever had?
But see, any question that's sincere is not dumb. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah,
honestly,
there's a dumb one out there. There's a dumb one out there.
That's a terrible answer.
That was like a teacher
answer. Give
us
us a really terrible.
Yeah, just give me the
Keep
worst one.
alive,
the last
man.
question I sent.
Bro, can I put dynamite on my windshield?
Hey, that's not a dumb question. That's actually a good idea.
Can I?
Well, it depends on where you put it. Yeah.
Go.
If you had a problem,
you got to have a dumb question that stands out that you always bring up at a drunk party.
Right.
I don't talk negative about people. I'm a nice guy, man.
Yeah, he is. And I hate that about you. Tenfold. All right. Well,
I'm actually leaving this to go work on a 76 Firebird for a buddy.
Oh.
And some LEDs. He's getting it built up from scratch, so I'm going to go help him wire it for a bit.
Do you have Do you have a build log for the, what is it, MG?
I'm rebuilding a 66 MG from scratch. The suspension's now, it's just a body and a shell right now.
Like literally from scratch.
Yeah, engine's completely rebuilt, and all the suspension components are being disassembled next. I'll get them all media blasted. I'll powder coat them or paint them in some way.
You need to start like a different,
I do.
You know what I mean? Like not a Facebook group or whatever.
Yeah, page.
But like
Facebook page.
Yeah, page or whatever.
So
the
I do have
files.
a journal. I got a journal for that car, but it's on the MG Experience. And Keep Hope Alive still my username because it's my username everywhere. But I will do a full legit build log of that car, and it's going to have a dope sound system in it.
Yes.
I would do IB in that, but it's a convertible, so I think I would just get cancellation.
Oh man,
just do it on the floor.
It's going to be dope. I'm going to put the VXI in it.
I hate you. I should have got them in the first place.
They're dope. They're great. They're great.
I mean, I still have the rest of the season. I just have Aggieland this weekend. So I got to go with what I got. So,
yeah.
And I got to tell you, I love the guys at JL. I love Manville. I love Eric, but that tweak, they can just scrap that thing. It's garbage.
Ouch.
I hate it. I hate it.
Dang, he said
Listen,
scrap it.
I'm
was
serious. Listen, here's the thing, and I'm just let me complain about the tweak before I get out of here, or before we get out of here.
I'll never stop a fade rant.
Processors these days are OEM integration devices.
Yeah.
The fact that JL wants to sell you another piece to integrate your shit into their shit is garbage. It is garbage.
Wait, what else do you need?
You have to get their stupid JL blah 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 blah.
What, the clean
Another,
sweep?
another dongle?
No, not the clean. Whatever the crap their line output converter / signal sensing turn on. It's garbage. If you give JL $400 or $500 for a tweak, the shit should have signal sensing. It should have load in a whatever the shit is where you don't have to put those stupid resistors in line with your goddamn amp to get the thing to see your stupid RCAs. It's ridiculous.
Yes. I didn't have
JL,
that
get
problem
your
with
shit in a pile, man. But you know what?
Yeah, the VXI didn't do
The
that
VXI has all of that.
Who makes that? Who makes that?
That's JL's amp. Their amp that has a built-in processor has all of that shit built in. Yeah. But the outboard processor that they sell is garbage. Don't get it. Don't get it.
Damn.
I mean, I've been an Alpine fanboy since the 90s. So from the ERA G320 old school graphic processor to the H701, now the H800, I've always liked Alpine because I've always liked controllers because I'm the kind of guy that likes to tweak at stuff on a stoplight.
Like the big shit with all the knobs on it?
No, they have the full DIN size controller. I would always put it up my
that's what I mean.
That's why I like having the 99. Somebody was talking about it on the forum the other day, and I was like, I like fiddling with shit at the stoplight with the remote control in my beep 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 beep. Like, that's why I like the 9. It's like a processor in the head unit, whatever. Anyway, don't buy the Tweak 88. Get the Dayton or get the Zapco. I don't care. Just JL, get your shit in a pile, make it an OEM integration device.
There's so many DSPs nowadays. There's no reason for people not to have access to them.
It's dumb. It's stupid, and I hate it. All right. So we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Peace out. T-Fate.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it.